About 6 months ago, I placed an order for the very first time to buy third-party Lego pieces, and those in specific were train tracks. I bought from TrixBrix for the very first time, and I bought some switches along with some ballast plates and also some different segments of track as well. You'll see some 8-stud wide segments there. There's a 4-stud one over there, and there's a few others scattered throughout as well. And these pieces are a mix of 3D printed pieces, like these switches are here, along with the ballast plates are also 3D printed, and then the 8-stud wide pieces are also injection molded as well. And so in today's video, I want to go through and see how each of these pieces that are on the layout have worn in over the last 6 months, and I want to see if I feel that I got my money's worth with these when I had first bought them back in May. So the first piece that we're going to be taking a look at here actually has a counterpart, which is all the way at the end there. And we will be taking a look at that momentarily, but we're going to start with this one first just because it's closer to the front of the table here. And so I paid $30 US or just about for this 4-stud crossover switch here. And I also paid an additional $30 for the ballast plate as well. And the reason I bought the ballast plate was because I figured that this odd shape and odd size here would be kind of a pain to deal with. So I figured it would be easier and save me a lot of time to just buy the ballast plate and then move on. Both of these pieces are 3D printed, and once I get you guys up closer, you'll start to see the imperfections in this when you compare it to regular Lego track. Now, looking at official Lego track, you can see that these are injection molded, and then the same can be said for the straight tracks over here. And then this is also a Lego track. You can see by the logo on the studs there. And then this is where the seam happens, at least for the siding here. And so you can clearly see the color difference, and then also the texture difference as well is a lot easier to see in person, but it is definitely, if you run your nail over this, it's pretty silent. Then you run your nail over this, and it is so much louder. Something that I also noticed was that I mainly just ran trains through this main line here. I don't often run them around this way and then back out. But something that I did notice was that there is a little bit of a mark starting to form here, almost like this is wearing down from the switch moving. I'm not really sure why that is, but there is also a little bit of a nick in there as well. So that is just something to keep in mind if you are buying 3D printed track. It will wear down easier than injection molded stuff, but I think that this one at least has held up pretty well. And you can see that the rails here have worn in a little bit, but they don't actually look that bad. So I think overall, this one switch here, and then obviously the ballast plate as well, have both held up pretty well over the last 6 months. So next up here, we have the opposite of what we just looked at. So this is the right 4-stud crossover, I believe, and then this one is the left. I can never remember which one's which, but this one is the mirror of the other one, and this one is actually held up even better than the first one that we looked at here. And so as you can see, there's no wear on the edge right here, which is always good to see. And both of the switch mechanisms work perfectly fine as well. I didn't show that on the other one, but the track here at least seems to be better taken care of. It looks to be a lot less worn in, and it's not like I run trains on it any less. I hardly ever run trains down this way, but this is official Lego track, so that is not even really in question here. The switch track itself is from here to here, and then obviously the switch, and then from here to here as well. And so these rails here actually look like they've held up pretty good. There is one little imperfection here, but that is honestly it. Everything else looks good. The panels on the side here to help keep the wheels or the flanges in line are all intact, and everything else looks good. There's no noticeable imperfections here. So this one actually held up even better than the other one. I don't know why that is, but both of these mechanisms do still work, like I said, and they both work great. Now, these also have some 8-stud segments here attached to them as well. So you can see the Lego logo right there, and then here is the TrixBrix logo. And what this is essentially is a 8-stud wide injection molded piece, and this is very useful for half straight segments. So this is a full straight segment of track, and then this is a half stud or a half length track, which is extremely useful. And this is injection molded, and so you cannot even feel the difference. You can see the Lego logo there, and then the TrixBrix one there. The reason there's no logo here is because of the ballast plate. So that is that, but no noticeable difference, and the only noise is when you run your nail over the seam here, but you can see that the color is an almost exact match, and then from the injection molding to the 3D print, there is a color difference as well. So I think this is looking really, really good. These injection molded pieces are great. And so now let's shift our attention over to here, because there are a couple of pieces in this back corner here. I'm going to remove a tree or two to help get a little bit more light back here. And then we can talk about the ballast plate here, and then also this 4-stud segment right here. So I don't think removing the tree really helped at all, but I do think that the ballast plate that we added back here was definitely worth it. As you can see, it is the off color underneath the official Lego Switch track here, and it starts from here, and it obviously just follows under the switch and also under the mechanism as well. Now, I paid about 12 euros for this. I'll have pictures on the screen of all of the prices of everything that I paid. And so the prices themselves, I actually don't even think were that bad. We'll talk more about that later on in the video. But specifically for this, I don't think it was that bad. I do think that it's very convenient to have something that just perfectly aligns with the track. So as you can see, it just follows the curve really nicely there. Whereas if you were to do this with Lego pieces, this would, at best case scenario, this is what it would look like here. And so I do think that this is really cool. My one gripe with the ballast plates, though, which I didn't talk about earlier, was that if you guys watched that original video where I had unboxed these, the ballast plates, some of them at least had a lot of friction in them and were sticking to the bottom of the track pieces, which was good because I was handling them in the video and I wanted to show you guys different angles of it. But a lot of the pieces did not have enough friction in them, and so I don't know if their tolerances for how exact they needed to be weren't as precise, but the pieces would often fall off of the tracks, which I didn't really love. Granted, that doesn't happen when you have it flat on a layout, but that is something to know. If you were ever considering ripping up the track and starting over, you'd have to make an effort to keep the ballast with the track, and then that just gets kind of messy, especially if you're moving it a lot and it's not going to be on a base plate. Now, moving over this way is a 4-stud segment here, and this is 3D printed, unlike the 8-stud segments that we took a look at just a second ago. The 4-stud, the 2-stud, and the 1-stud segments are all 3D printed, and I don't have 2 and 1-stud segments on the layout right now, but I can show you guys them up close in just a second here. And this gets a lot of action on it. Let me see if I can get you guys a little closer, but the tracks themselves seem to be worn in completely fine, and there's no visible damage to it. There's no visible issues or marks on it, which is good to see. It does look like it has a little bit of a gap there from the print itself, but it's not really a big deal. I can't even fit my fingernail in it, so I think that is fine. And this is honestly perfect. This is just to show you guys that it rolls over just fine. Like I said, it is a 3D print, which is not ideal, but again, it's not the end of the world. I think it's fine as it is, and it does look a lot better than FlexTrack, which is also 4 studs wide, so more than happy to have that in the layout, and I think that it looks really, really good. Now, this is the first of 2 left switches here, so like we saw just a moment ago with the regular official Lego Switch, the part that actually comes off here wants to curve back and make the lines parallel. But I bought this switch here because I wanted the curve to be a nice natural curve here instead of kind of coming in and then having to come out again. So I think this was definitely the way to go, at least for this area and for the sake of space. And you'll see this again in just a minute here. I did not buy ballast plates for either of these 2 switches, and I do regret that. I do think that ballast plates would have looked a lot better here. You wouldn't have had these gaps in here. And so the next time I place a TrixBrix order, assuming there is a next time, I will be buying the ballast plates for these two switches. And so but the switch itself, though, I think has shaped up really nicely. You will notice a little bit of damage right there at the seam. As for why it's there, I'm not totally sure, but there is also a mark there as well. A very slight one, but that is something to know. I never really ran trains through here just because the layout doesn't continue this way yet. So this area here I'm just using as a siding for the time being, and this is also the 2-stud track segment as well. And so as you can see, it is 3D printed and it is rather rough. They don't sand it down, at least to my understanding. They don't sand it down once it's done, but I do think that this looks good. Now back to the switch. The switch itself, I think, has held up well, again, except for that one area there. And even this point right here where the mechanism actually moves, I think has held up well, and it doesn't look like that first switch that we took a look at. And so I think overall that this switch here has held up pretty well. But this is the one that confuses me the most. This is the exact same switch that we just saw. It's just over here now. So we had the first one there, and the second one is now over here. Again, I did not buy a ballast plate for the pieces of track here, but next time, again, assuming there is a next time, I will be buying those. And I say that this is the one that confuses me because of the mechanism here. So when you bring it out, it works just fine, like a normal switch. But when you bring it in, it has that extra click to it. So I don't know why that is. None of the other switches have that. You can just bypass it and shove it all the way down. But if you're just gently doing it, you're going to notice that it doesn't go all the way and you have to press it a little extra. I don't know why that is, but that is a little frustrating. It's not the end of the world. It's not like I use the switch super often anyways. And I am knocking over a bunch of the details here, but that's fine. The other thing with this switch, and it is apparent on the other switches, but it's not as bad as this one here, which is the tolerance of the studs themselves. So on a Lego track, which is right here, again, that seam is, the injection molding is here with the official Lego track, and then the 3D printed stuff is right here. So on the Lego track, you can see that there is friction there, and you can move these pieces, but there is friction behind it, and it's not going anywhere. With the 3D printed stuff, if you just, like, these are not even attached. I had to rest these on here and just kind of hope that they stay. So not a big fan of that. You can see it here as well, here, and it feels like this whole curve, every single stud just did not have enough clutch power to keep the tiles on. So not a big fan of that, but that is really only a problem with this switch. The other switches had a little bit of it, but it wasn't this bad. And I don't know if I just got unlucky or if that is how the switches are supposed to be, or the 3D printed stuff is supposed to be, but this one does not have any noticeable damage on it. There is a little bit of wear right there, despite the fact that I don't use this as much. Again, this is just a siding for the most part for right now, just because I don't have the track continuing quite yet. So the train mostly just goes straight through. This one does also have, as you can see, the wear right there on the point where the mechanism actually moves. So that's pretty interesting. And as promised, here is a look at the smaller segments of track. So I just brought one or two over of each. So this is the 8-stud track here. So as you can see, it has the TrixBrix logo embossed on the studs there instead of the Lego logo, obviously. And this is pretty much the exact same thing as the injection molded pieces. As you can see, if I bring this over here, it looks almost identical, obviously, except for the studs, but this looks really good and it looks almost identical. However, these do look and feel noticeably different. As you can see, the studs have nothing on them, and then all of the 3D printing feelings of it are definitely still there. But these are the different sections that I had bought. I bought a 4-stud, which we saw in the layout earlier, by the old train engine shed. Then here is a 2 stud segment right here, and then also a 1 stud segment as well. And I bought these just in the event that I ever needed them in order to fill a gap. I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. So figured I'd pick up a couple of each. So that was pretty nice to have. I can't speak on their use and how well they wore in, except for obviously the 4 stud one. We already covered that. But for the 1 and the 2 stud segments, I can't really speak on how they wear in, but I'm assuming it's the same as the 4 stud one because they are just smaller versions of it. My only concern with the 1 stud one would be how thin it is right in the middle there. That would be my only concern if that breaks over time. But I think this is not going to be a problem. I will definitely give another update video once I actually start using these. But I just wanted to tell you guys that I did buy these in case you missed that video where I unboxed everything and I gave my initial thoughts and experience of it. I did buy these pieces, but I can't fully speak on them yet because I have not used them in a layout. Overall, these pieces here, which is now we're going to talk about all of them and their perceived value, I think they are expensive, but I do think that you get what you pay for. And I do think that these are good pieces and they are obviously very specialized, so most of them have to be 3D printed, otherwise the prices would be even higher. But if you are someone who is serious about making a train layout, these are definitely great pieces to keep in mind. And as of the recording of this video, TrixBrix's website still has the sale, or not sale, but the free shipping that if you spend over 140 euros or 200 euros in, I think, Australia and New Zealand, then you would get free shipping. And that equated, at the time at least, it was about 160 US dollars, I believe I had to spend on it in order to get the free shipping. And so that was a very nice bonus, actually, to buy all of these pieces and then to get the money off of the shipping. That was great because this does come from Poland, and so a lot of this stuff would have cost even more, a lot more actually, if I had to pay for shipping as well. And so I'm really happy that I didn't have to do that. But like I said, if you are someone who wants to take a train layout seriously, this is a fantastic option. And even still, with just these 2 pieces right here and also the 8 stud segments sprinkled throughout, this area looks so much more in depth than if it was just one row of track and then one simple switch going to a siding here, or even one switch going that way. I think this looks so much better and it looks so much cleaner this way as well. And especially these switches, like I talked about earlier, how the standard Lego ones, if I come over here, the standard Lego ones have this built into them. And so the whole point of that is so that you can add a curve track here, and then that way these 2 lines would be parallel going that way, which is fine if you want to make a siding like that. But for those of us that want to make the section right here where it's just a simple curve like this and then a line going straight through, those official switches do not do that well at all. And so being able to have the option to do this is fantastic. And you can actually swap this piece around. You can flip it 180 degrees and make that official switch or the same shape of switch if you wanted to. So that versatility is nice as well. But overall, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to say in this video. I talked about each of the pieces, how they've worn in, and also my value of them, or my perceived value of them. And I did spend 160 something dollars a few months, like about 6 months ago now, like I said, and I do not regret that at all. I do think that it is absolutely worth it. Like I said, it is expensive, but you get what you pay for. And if I ever have the opportunity to order from them in the future, I will be sure to get ballast plates for this switch as well as that one right there, along with hopefully some other things like some wider radius track, because I'd be pretty curious to try those out, and a few other specialty switches as well. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you found this informative, or at the very least entertaining. If you did, make sure to subscribe for more, and let me know if there's any specific pieces that you want me to get from TrixBrix in my next order so I can review them on the channel. And with that, thank you guys again for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.